Welcome to today's episode. What if you couldn't fail? This is kind of like a question I want you to ask yourself and truly, deeply think about this. Because I feel like we all kind of like have these kind of dreams, these deep seated kind of passions and stuff that we want to achieve in our life. And sometimes I think a lot of us are scared to take those steps. I know for myself and previously in the past, I've definitely been scared to take the steps I need to actually get where I want to be. And most of the time, there's many different reasons for that. So in today's episode, I kind of want to go over all these kind of different things to do with failure. And I want to question them and check if these are actually reasonable things that we should be focused on, or if there's another way to go about this. So if you're someone that is interested in kind of overcoming your fears, someone that is interested in maybe a different perspective or getting closer to your dreams, then this is the episode for you. And so furthermore, I'm going to kind of dip into this, and I don't want to waste you guys' time. So basically, how we think about failure shapes our lives in many different ways. And what I mean by that is if we're more like not worried about failure, if we wake up in the morning and we think, okay, yes, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that, but I'm not going to allow fear to kind of run my life. I feel personally that that's a great place to kind of live from. Obviously, you should be worrying about what people think to a certain degree, but if you're trying to basically become better and to improve yourself as time goes on, a lot of the time, other people's opinions or thinking of other people's opinion or the imagination of other people's opinion, because they probably haven't even given it to you yet, will only hold you back. So how I kind of want to gloss over everything here is that I want you to remember that when you're going towards your dream, yes, some people might judge you. Some people might leave some rude messages for you. Some people might not believe in you. But if you believe in yourself, and that is truly what matters, and overcoming that fear of failure is crucial. I truly believe that. And I believe this so strongly because there's been so many times in my life where I've kind of had that failure, where I've worried about what people thought, and I still do. Like, I don't want to act like I'm a robot, because that's not true at all. I definitely still have those thoughts that come into my mind, but I just don't allow them to kind of rule me, if that makes sense. I don't allow them to take over. I make sure I remind myself that I have dreams and they're valid dreams, and yes, I may fail along the way, but they're normally lessons. They're normally things that we can grow from. And we just have to frame failure in a different way. I kind of think growing up, and obviously like being obviously a child when you're younger and you have tests, and you have to have a certain amount of like, okay, you failed this test or you passed this test. It's kind of like binary, like yes or no. But as we grow older, that's not so much the case. And we're not taught that to get to where we want to go, we do actually have to experience a level of failure. And if you look around you at some of the most successful people, you see that these individuals have actually gone through tons of failures, and probably more than you could even list out, and probably more than you even realize that they have. But it's been the part of not slowing down or not giving up which actually got them to their dream. And I think that's where maybe we were kind of taught in school. We weren't kind of taught, okay, you fail, that's okay, try again, try again, try again. And I definitely wasn't brought up in that kind of mindset. Like, if you're bad at something right now, or you're maybe not to the level that you want to be right now, then like you can grow. And that definitely wasn't where I kind of like was in my life. Like when I was younger, I never really had that kind of thought process. It was kind of as I grew up and I kind of put myself in spaces where I could fail more. And then I realized, okay, actually, this isn't so terrible, or this is teaching me something, or this is helping me grow. Because at the end of the day, failing is a kind of resource for endless growth. Like if you take a test and you take that test and you maybe get 75% right, but you needed 80% to get right, you could always retake this test. But before you do that, you examine and be like, well, what was I weak on? Why did I fail? Because there's obviously a reason to me failing in this situation. And I think that sometimes we put so much emotion within the kind of outcome of failure, or maybe even in the outcome of success, that we forget that there's a lesson within that. Like when you hear a lot of like kind of like successful, famous individuals or people that you look up to in any sector, you normally hear that like their failures are the things that have shaped them. And that most of the time it's a positive thing. They look back at it and they're like, oh yeah, like this thing taught me that I needed to obviously get better at this, and now that thing has improved my life like dramatically. So I kind of just want to like frame it in a way. What would change if failure didn't exist? So say like we didn't have, if you know you couldn't like lose at anything, would you kind of take different steps in life? Would you kind of go for those dreams? Would you, maybe you wouldn't stay in such a safe job? Because for me, when I think of that thought, I'm like, yes, like I would do everything that excites me. So maybe we should kind of, in a certain degree, act like it doesn't exist, if that makes sense, or at least frame it in a way that it's not such a dramatic thing. Like if I have like a video, like a podcast here, and there's going to be mini failures throughout it. There's going to be things that I still don't know how to do, but I don't have to look at it with such like emotional kind of way. Like we've attached emotions towards failure, and maybe the wrong emotions. Like if I think about failure now, I instantly kind of think of growth, and I'm like, what can that failure teach me? And can I fail quickly and get back up and fight against it? Do you know what I mean? Or like carry on, like dust myself off and be like, you're okay. And like be kind to yourself. Kind of think about what's gone wrong there, but don't allow it to kind of make you feel guilty or like make you feel bad that you did fail, because truly all of us fail. Some of us just do it publicly, some of us keep it a secret, some of us stay so comfortable that we don't have to experience failure. But that doesn't mean that that's right. Just because we're not experiencing it because we're comfortable doesn't mean that that's the right thing to do. I truly believe that if we put ourselves in certain situations which promote failure, or I'm not saying it like I'm trying to fail, but it's going to happen either way, whether you like it or not. And you can frame your mindset about it to the point where maybe you don't think about it in such like a like negative kind of way. But what kind of like part of your life have you kept small just because it felt too risky? It felt like maybe I'll fail at this thing. Because I'm sure there's tons of different things which you've thought about before and you're like, oh, I'd love to do that, but deep in your mind, you're like, oh, what kind of like, what outcome will happen? And will it be positive? Will it be negative? And truly, we kind of have to disconnect from that outcome. And especially because with failure, I think the majority of our fear is external in the terms of we're worried about what other people are going to say about our failure. And that's totally fair enough, because I think if you look back over the ages, like when we were back in tribes and stuff like that, if you made a huge failure, maybe you would be kicked out of the tribe. Maybe you would not be welcome there anymore. But I think our digital age, like our kind of like the lives that we live now, there's so much options. There's so many different things. There's so many different ways to succeed. And you kind of have to kind of promote failure. Like you have to put that emotional part to the side and be like, okay, can I actually get some good lessons out of this? Can I fail a little bit? Can I improve? And so I totally understand why people would worry if they are failing publicly, because obviously we've had experiences with other people, maybe when we were younger, where we have failed and maybe they've called it out and that was embarrassing, or it felt overwhelming at the time. But I think as you kind of gain knowledge and get older, you start to realize that maybe, or even if you're just realizing this now, the opinions of these other individuals, even if they did comment, which most of the time people are too busy focusing on themselves, but even if they did comment, those opinions don't really truly matter, because they're probably from people that don't love you. They're probably from people that don't even know you and don't know what you're trying to achieve. So giving them people the ability or the weight to be able to affect you is actually, it's something which we should be trying to avoid, mainly because you want to put the power within your hands rather than the power within someone else's who's got a totally different life experience, totally different perspective. They don't deserve to kind of rule what you do in your life. And also, people's like opinion starts to change once you kind of start achieving. So maybe you're at the beginning of your story. You haven't like kind of got too far within your kind of journey, and you're new and it looks ugly and it just feels uncomfortable and it feels strange, but you know there's something there, you've got some passion for it. And for someone to judge that, it's valid, and we can definitely gain some knowledge from that, because sometimes there are parts or things that we can improve on. So it's good to listen, but it's also not good to kind of base your whole identity off other individuals. So for me, that's always kind of like recently helped me, is kind of like knowing that the opinions of people that are kind of focused on you right now, they might dislike what you're doing now or have an opinion about it that is negative now. But as you grow and you say you've put these years into kind of gaining some skill or kind of refining that skill, they'll most likely be the ones that will come back and cheer, or they'll be the ones that will be like, oh my God, how did you get here? And then in your mind, you're like, well, I didn't listen to you. I did what I wanted to do. And that's why I also believe, like, when you are trying to do something new within the first stages, I don't believe it's worth to always share those kind of thought processes with everyone else, because other people, like, obviously there's some people in your life which, like if you tell them, oh, I've started, like, I'm going to start doing this, then they're going to support you. They're probably going to try help you get to that goal. And then there's the other people that, like maybe there's family members that they have deep rooted fears themselves, and they'll start to kind of try tear down your dreams and try to tell you their failures because maybe they experienced it once, or maybe they just don't have the same mindset as you, and that's okay. But that's why I don't believe that we should be just taking everyone's opinion to heart, because not everyone's an expert. Like, if I've started a podcast here and my grandmother says, oh, this is so bad, or this could be improved, and it's like, but does that person have expertise within it? And especially when you start, because I believe you need a push, you need someone to kind of uplift you and tell you that you can do this, you can achieve this. And even if that's yourself, even if that's you kind of repeating this to yourself, personally for me, it's easier to keep it to yourself for that first part. And obviously, people you trust and truly believe will kind of uplift you. And then with time, those other people, you can start to introduce them once you've built that kind of that confidence in what you're doing, because you don't want someone to kind of tear you down straight away. But yeah, that was a bit of a rant about my kind of opinion on what I truly believe failure is and how we use it. And now I kind of want to come up with a different kind of story. So imagine a woman named Sarah that is 34 years old, and she's in marketing or something like that, or in a job, an office job, but her true passion is to open a cafe that sells beautiful coffees and pastries, and she just really wants to put herself out there, and she has a true kind of passion for creating these kind of different delicious kind of coffees and stuff like that. But she's it's nothing, she doesn't want to create anything crazy fancy. It's just she wants something that will truly be hers. She has the name, she has the look, she knows what kind of atmosphere she wants, but she never starts. And that's kind of what a lot of us kind of do, because we have this failure kind of in the back of our mind. We're like, oh, you can't do that. Maybe you failed in the past on a past business or a past passion to try and get that started up. Maybe you failed during that time. And in your mind, you're like, what if this flops? What if it's not good enough? What if this kind of thing isn't what I should be doing? And you're coming up with all these different kind of excuses in your mind, but we can never truly know what's going to happen in life. That's the kind of funny thing, is that we try to make these plans in our mind. We try to kind of come up with these rock solid plans of what our life will look like, but we don't know what's going to happen. You truly don't. Tomorrow could be our last day on earth. It could be. But we still try to come up with those different fears. So, and then we don't focus or do those dreams or follow through on those dreams. And this happens time after time. And for her, in the back of her mind, if that keeps building up, that's probably going to feel awful. And you're probably going to get to a point where you're not happy with your life. But what about now? Imagine if she was to wake up one day and she was to think, okay, well, yes, this is a huge kind of idea. This is a huge kind of life change to make. So instead, she thinks of something that she can truly do in the now. And she thinks, how about I get a coffee cart, a cart where I can kind of go down public areas and see if people want coffee, or see if people want to purchase my coffee, see if I get any kind of just to start small and see if I get a bite, see if people are interested in this idea, see if people enjoy the delicious coffee which I'm going to serve. And now she's realizing in her mind, okay, I've taken these steps. I've created something which is truly mine. And yes, it might not be like large. She's still working her normal kind of day job during the week, but she's now tasting that she was able to create that dream, and she walked straight past failure. And yes, who knows what could happen with that kind of business. She might realize that she's got loads of traction and that tons of people are interested in this coffee which she's creating. And now she's able to open her cafe without as much risk, or maybe the risk wasn't there, but she now has the confidence which she didn't have before. So that was kind of like how I want to frame it in your mind. Like, what dream do you have which you've kind of allowed fear to take over from? And is there any like kind of small steps which you can take to kind of go towards that? And it doesn't have to be huge. Like it really doesn't. It can be something tiny, just like I just explained to you. But maybe the only thing that has been stopping you isn't reality. It's the version of a story where you lose. And for me, the way I think about that is that there's two versions to each story. There's one where you lose, but there's also one where you succeed incredibly. And it's 50-50. Like we have no idea which one, but I feel like, wouldn't you rather take the risk of finding out? And knowing that even if you did fail, you can look back and not regret not taking action. Because if you think about it in that way, the only real failure is not trying. I just want to repeat that one more time. The only real failure is not trying. So you kind of have to take the actions. And like, yes, you might fail, but you would have failed anyway if you didn't put any action in, if you didn't actually try. So I kind of want to like deconstruct this kind of like idea that we have failure in our life, because a lot of the time when we think of failure, is such a huge thing. It's such like an emotional, like weightful kind of feeling. You could probably feel it now, like inside you. You're like, this is the thing that we want to run away from. And I think that's where we have to deconstruct it. We can't act like failure is the worst possible outcome, like it's death. Because it's not. Most of the time, it's a quiet moment no one actually notices. Maybe it's to ourselves, like we do something. I'm like trying to work out how to edit on the software, or I'm trying to like code. I'm trying to like ride a bike for the first time. And yes, I maybe fell off that bike. I may have fell off a couple times and I failed, but no one else is truly paying attention to that. Like, even most people are probably looking at it and be like, damn, like the guts on that individual for trying to learn how to ride a bike at like an older age. Like for me, if I came across that, I'd be like, that's inspiring. That's like deeply inspiring. And the people that do push you down or kick you when you're down, they're the individuals that are probably have more fear than you towards failing. And we just kind of have to have empathy for that, but also block that out. That person isn't going to improve your life. If you fail and people see that and they pick you up, they're the people that you want to be around. But to be honest, I also think that we don't truly fear failure. We fear the judgment. So what I mean by that is that we fear what other people are going to judge us about rather than actual fear, which is kind of like contradicting, because you think, oh yeah, like they're one or the same thing, but I don't think they are, because failure is like, yes, I wasn't able to complete this thing. I tried my best, but I wasn't able to basically complete this thing. But what did I learn from it? But then fearing the judgment is more of an ego thing, and it's what is my identity. Maybe I built an identity up about being perfect, or like I feel like I'm perfect, and none of us are perfect. Like all of us are failing miserably a lot of the time. But I guess we could switch that and try not to fail miserably and just fail and try not to hold too much against it. And obviously there's certain situations where failure feels a lot bigger. I'm talking more about the day-to-day kind of like things that aren't life and death in this conversation. And they're probably the most kind of usual failures that most of us see. So yeah, I think we have to kind of like talk about that and look at it and be like, who's failing around me? Let me look. Is this creator? Is this artist? Is this filmmaker? Are they failing? Can I look back and see what they failed at? They've probably got some public failures. And you start to kind of put it together and you're like, oh my God, all these people have failed. Why? How are they successful? It's mainly because they never stopped. And as you start to realize that, you kind of like put it together and you can put that into your own mind. Next time you fail, you don't see it as such a negative thing. You take a step back and you look, oh, so why did I fail? What did I do wrong in that situation? And how can I improve off that? And if you focus your attention on that, then you're only going to become better with time. And failure just never stops, I don't think. We sometimes have ideas which we think are amazing in a moment, and then a second later or like a couple years later, that was an awful decision. But you have to trust yourself in the moment, and you also have to learn from those mistakes. But yeah, we've also kind of been trained to only share things that succeed. So on Instagram, I might like, when I get like a university degree, I'm like, oh yeah, here it is. But what they didn't know is I failed multiple exams, and I didn't show that because that's not pretty. So maybe we should get into the kind of idea that maybe we should share more of our failures as a society. Maybe I should, as like say I was a father, I'm not a father yet, but when I'm a father, maybe I should go to like my son and be like, oh, like I really wanted this thing and I did these things to try get it and I failed. And that kind of like hurt, and you can acknowledge that because those feelings are valid. But then you say, but I'm going to do this. Like I've looked at it and I think I can do this to improve next time. Or maybe I'm done with that, but like I've learned these lessons about it. And that itself is already like a beautiful thing. Like if we can start sharing our failures more, and then also celebrating our wins more and being thankful for everything we can kind of do, thankful for those wins, thankful for those failures, I personally think there'll be a lot more room for a lot of us to succeed more, because then we will be like, okay, well, I know this individual, my best friend fails all the time. Or in a few generations, failure will just be seen as normal, and you'll have that resilience to deal with it, which personally for me, and it just shows that like failure is not the enemy, but inaction is. And that's kind of one thing I've just wanted to kind of like put through for a while. And something I just thought was quite interesting, if I'm honest. But now I want to get onto the part of this video, which can kind of like, it's a mini framework, which little things that I kind of use on my day-to-day kind of life that can maybe benefit you. And so we'll go over a few of those. We'll talk about them. We'll come to conclusions about them. I'll have a think. Yeah. So one for me that changed my life when I went from being someone that's a binge drinker every weekend, that wasn't happy with their life, but wanted to change. but had such a fear of failure, was starting small and starting real. Like, what's the minimal kind of viable version of this kind of thing that I can do? And like, if I want to, like here, with starting this podcast, creating an episode and it being messy and me not knowing how to speak to the camera and all those things is part of failing, because it's not exactly the vision you have in your mind of what you want to be. But sometimes to get to the vision of our competency in our mind, we have to take the messy steps to get there. And so I would say take those small steps. Be like, okay, I'm really interested in this topic, or I really want to code like a website, or I want to create a business. Take the coffee cart as an example. She probably had numerous steps before kind of having that coffee cart. She would have had to kind of research it and see where she could get a coffee cart from, what kind of coffee she wanted to make, what flavoring she wanted to have. And she would have took many little different steps to kind of get there. And that's kind of something I want to put in like to you, is not making it such like a big overwhelming thing. Taking small steps, just real steps, will give you the momentum to kind of overhaul the failure part, if that makes sense. Also, I think you have to kind of detach from your identity, which is meaning you're going to fail. And that might not sit well with your identity. Like for you, you might be someone that's won all the time. Like say you're really academic in school. You passed all your exams, but now you're in a sector which maybe takes a lot of failure, or maybe it's something that's brand new, or maybe it's something that's just more difficult for you to do, but you're passionate about it. You would have to detach yourself from the outcome, because that outcome is not your worth. If my video is bad, that doesn't mean I'm a bad person. If I code something that's trash at first, the first kind of iteration of it, that doesn't make me trash. That just means that I'm working on the first iteration. And if someone came to you and said, oh, this is kind of my idea for a movie, I made this kind of like little, like my first movie I've ever made, and you wouldn't kind of shoot them down and be like, well, you're going to be awful at making movies forever. You're going to be, what kind of things can they do to improve? So you have to treat yourself like a friend in that aspect. You also have to build reps. And what I mean by this is that, like, people don't win overnight. Like, it takes a lot of reps to kind of like get good at something. And I think that's also interlinked with the kind of identity part and the ego part, is that we have to kind of think, every time that I do this, I'm going to get a little bit better. I'm going to review what I've done, and I'm going to see how I can get better at that one thing. And that might seem like at the start, like, but it's really uncomfortable. And yes, it will be. But that's how you gain the confidence. That's how you gain the power. That's how you gain just happiness, because you look at yourself and you're proud of yourself and you're like, oh my God, I've done this like 50 times now, and look how bad I was at the start, but look how good I am now. And that's where the change comes. One last kind of like framework thing that I want to kind of gloss over is, what would you do if you had a 90-day window? So a 90-day window where you could kind of fail as much as you kind of wanted, and nobody would like judge you at all. Like there would only be good feedback, or there'd be no feedback at all, but you don't have to worry about what others are thinking. Like, commit to something for that time and just block out the noise. And just remember that you're new to this. You're someone that's, and even if you're not new to it, even if you've done it 100 times, but you let fear get over you or fear overwhelm you, take a step back and be like, maybe I should just try it with not being attached to this failure, not being attached to what others have said to me. And because once you detach from that, the good and the bad, because we can't allow external things to affect, like we can't allow ourselves to be controlled by external validation or external like communication, like people's opinions and stuff like that. Because if you live that way, then you're always going to be up or down, up or down. You have to truly find the meaning in what you're doing. And yes, you might get good feedback and that'll be nice in the moment, but don't put too much weight in that. Look at that, take what you need from that, what you're doing right, and take what you're doing wrong, and what, because we do make mistakes, take what you're doing wrong and put it into action and try to be better. But also, my one last thing is just do not put too much weight on everyone's opinions, because if someone comes up to me who's an incredible podcaster and gives me some amazing advice, I'm going to take that advice. But if some 13-year-old like boy from his bedroom listens to a podcast and truly believes that he knows like the best, or he knows how to do it, but he's never even done a podcast, he doesn't even know the second thing about podcasting, would you like kind of believe that person's opinion? I highly doubt you would. So try your best not to put weight on everyone's opinions. But now I kind of just want to have some kind of reflection time, just to kind of go over this and kind of get you to think about, what dream are you kind of keeping at arm's length just because you're scared of what people might think if it doesn't work out? Because we've all done that. We've all kind of like kept things, or like kept it as a secret, like our true passion. Like maybe you're a really good singer, you're a really good musician, or you have something, you have that magic, like that talent, but you're scared to show that to the world. Just think, like, if I can't fail, if failure wasn't a thing, would I do it? Would I just give it a go? Because I know I would, and I want you guys too, to just take that step. And the biggest risk at the end of the day is not going to be failure. It's probably going to be like living a life that's too small for you. And that's, I think sometimes we shrink ourselves into boxes just to kind of not feel that failure, or so that we don't feel that uncomfortableness of failure. And that's not a way to live. That's truly not a way to live. So I kind of want to wrap this up, because I know I've kind of gone over a lot of different things. But so much of life is shaped by a question we kind of rarely ask out loud. And I kind of want to go over that question just before I leave you guys. What if I fail? And the better question might be, what if I don't even try? And what I mean by that is, we shouldn't shape life by what if we fail. We should shape life by asking ourselves, what if I don't even try? And what if I don't even go towards those dreams that I truly really, truly want? And yes, you might get down the road and this isn't for me. And then you've learned that and you know that now, but at least you're not like just saying, oh yeah, that's not for me because that's for someone else. I can't achieve that, because I truly believe you can achieve whatever you want. It's just like the individual I told you with the coffee cart. Like, she stepped into failure, and I know, like, it's a story I've kind of created, but it's a story that's been done time and time again. And yeah, like I believe that you guys can do this too. So yeah, I want to leave you kind of thinking about this. What if you couldn't fail? Try your best to kind of implement these different kind of frameworks throughout the week, and drop me a comment if these actually are helping you, if there's anything you would add, because I have an opinion, and my opinion could be not the whole picture. So I want you guys to kind of like bring it in and kind of let me know. And also, if you have any episode kind of ideas, feel free to push them my way, because I love talking about different things, and you guys can kind of be part of this conversation. And maybe I can bring some like something to you of value, which maybe you weren't thinking about beforehand. So yeah, I really want to thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Keep failing.